Hello, everybody, and welcome to the June 30th Trips and Traps. I'm Andy Serling, joined by a special guest, John Forbes from the press office. The author of Forbes Boisterous is joining us for this week's show.
Yes, it's great to be here, and I'm happy to have this opportunity, and we have 3 turf routes ahead, so let's hop right into it.
Sounds good. We got 3 races from Sunday. Tough time finding a lot of races. We're going to start with a couple of back-to-back maiden races on different courses. Starting out in the inner course, a couple we want to focus on. One of them is Boisterous, first time on the turf for Shug McGay. The other one is the 5 Touch of Silver, a first-time starter for Billy Mott.
And in the case of Boisterous, I know that you thought that he was a little bit underbet at 30-1. Well, what did you like that others may not have seen?
Here are the horses as they settle in together. Boisterous was just a first-time turfer with a little bit of breeding. The other horse, Touch of Silver, was a first-time starter. The dam, as you point out to me, being the author of Forbes Boisterous, that she was an unraced half to a horse out of Tussaud, who's a dam of Empire Maker, Chester House, and umpteen stakes were in the turf. A horse very well bred for the turf. It feels like Boisterous is a horse that spent most of the race, especially the early part of the race, getting sort of shuffled back farther and farther on the rail. The inclination by the rider, Victor Santiago, to get positioned inside is fine. The problem is the pace was so slow. Touch of Silver, right. It's almost like she was never in contention.
In the case of Touch of Silver, it seems to me that Mott's not going to be pushing him along too early. And in the case of Bill Mott, if he thinks that their destiny is going long and on the turf, he'll put them on the turf first time. I'll look at Pioneer of the Nile, look at Drosselmeyer. If he thinks they should go long early, he'll put them in there. Other trainers, I see that comes as an indictment. They don't think that the horse has much speed, but Mott, he doesn't mess around. He'll have them go long.
Right. I have to admit, given the family, Empire Maker not included, they're pretty much turf horses. He wanted to give her a race. It feels like a race that she got an education. She was back. It was a very, very slow pace. I think it's a knock on Sherman now, the horse who's on the lead, who's coming off a layoff. And you can even see here at this point, you've got Touch of Silver making that wide move. Boisterous is always hemmed down behind inside of horses and doesn't really ever get a fair chance. The pace compromised his chances. He does save ground. It's 2 very different kind of trips, though, because Boisterous is sort of inside of horses, caught beyond a slow pace, shuffled out of position, whereas Touch of Silver was a first-time starter that probably just needed a race and is going to run a lot better at Saratoga. I mean, would you be looking to bet both these horses going forward? I think you're more interested in Touch of Silver.
Yeah, well, in the case of Touch of Silver, it completely depends on the value. If it's a turf race that comes up really tough, I really don't know. I don't know how much I'd want to sink my teeth into that one, but I do think that one has a chance to improve going forward.
Yeah, I think Touch of Silver probably has more room going forward. I liked Boisterous. The problem is Boisterous was 30-1 in this spot and is not going to be that price again. But he ran okay and certainly improved on his dirt races. That race was okay, but the next race we're showing was actually for fillies in the next race. And they were going a mile and 16th on the Widener course, and this race was totally different. You had a very reasonable pace. We want to look at 2 firsters here. Easy to see them early because they both get left.
Yeah, and they both. And we have another Bill Mott, first-time starter, debuting going long right there, and the one coming from the Angel Penna barn, and both of them, very good, astute turf trainers right there, and they're not going to mess around. They're going to put them on the turf first time out.
Yeah, I was surprised that Codetta's the one in those familiar Steinbrenner silks, the blue silks back there, Kinsman Stable. I was a little surprised that they went to the turf, and see, unlike the one before, Touch of Silver, I don't think it's an indictment of the horse's ability. I think it's the indictment of the horse's dirt ability, because it's a Dream Supreme. And Dream Supreme is the damn Majestic Warrior. Now, there's been plenty of turf winners in that family, and she's produced a couple. But I think this is one, Dream Supreme, winning the test, winning the Ballerina. If this horse could run in the dirt, he might have run in the dirt. They both end up closing at the end, as you're going to see. The question is, was it circumstance?
Yeah, well, to make the comparison right there, I know you think that they kind of ran on while everybody else faded. Now, at the final 16th of a mile, they did run it faster compared to the previous race, the third race right there. I think it was 5 seconds and 83/100. So even though the pace was faster, they still came up faster in this race. I know it's Widener versus the inner right there, but it is something I did think that was noteworthy.
Yeah, it is. I understand that. I also thought this race kind of collapsed. The winner in here, the Memories of Silver Filly LaCloche for trainer Jimmy Toner, improved dramatically. This race got a big speed figure. I don't know. I have trouble believing it because I have trouble believing the second finisher, Smart Farming, got that figure. But I think in looking at the race and how it was run, and you've got Codetta here, and she split horses off the rail. She had a very good trip. And the question is, looking at both of these first-time starters, and people can judge for themselves, Touch of Silver and then Codetta, I thought Touch of Silver was ridden more like a horse that maybe needed a race and looking more to the future. Codetta, I'm not quite sure she was prepped as much. Obviously, they're both first-time stars, though, with upside.
All right, and we can move along here to the final race of our feature right here, featuring Sonata.
Yeah, we're going to move along to the 9th race from Sunday. And Sonata is a horse in this race, and she breaks from the outside. And this is a race, first of all, once again, another race where there was no speed signed on in paper. One horse, in this case, I believe Kent Sormo, was riding Gold Doro, a Beaumont horse. He seized the bull by the horns, set the slow pace. But the question is, what was Alan Garcia's plan, who was riding Sonata? Because he never got her in a position to win the race.
Right. He's going to have an opportunity as we go into the first turn to get inside, get some cover, save some ground, and he just keeps her outside all along, and it's going to end up costing her because she's going to get folded out as they turn onto the backstretch.
Right, even here, where she could have maybe settled back, instead she's sort of out in the middle of the track, and then as you'll see, the horse inside of her with a 7-pound bug rider, for some reason, he decided it was go time, and he sends her, and as he sends her, and we're going to highlight in a second, you can see the horse inside. She will carry out Sonata, and further complicated, Garcia could have been behind her inside. I know it's not easy to do, but look where he ends up. It just gets worse from here.
And they continue up the backstretch. I don't know how much it cost her in terms of momentum, but it's just another factor to throw in terms of the wide trip, not getting the cover, and then getting folded down, losing a little bit of momentum, and turning onto the backstretch. They all kind of combine into a single package.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. You were talking to me earlier. She doesn't really have a burst of speed, Sonata, and you may be right about that. But the problem is, because it's such a dawdling pace at 1.25 miles, how much of a burst of speed can she have? She just never really. I mean, even here, she's sort of lumbering out here in the 3-path, 4-path. She'll go even wider out there. And of course, here's the winner of the race. V was back there. She just never. And Dance Pass, who finishes second, is right there actually. And there's Sonata way out in the middle of the track. Where's she going from there?
In the case of Sonata, I mean, where would you like to see her come back? I mean, at over a longer distance, or maybe a shorter race where she might have a faster pace and something to set up her run?
Yeah, well, that's if she gets a faster pace. I would like to see her at 1 1/8 or something, 1/16, 1/8 at Saratoga, and I'd like to see it happen soon, because I'll tell you something. I don't know if it's the Lake George, Lake Placid. One of them is the second stake for 3-year-old fillies at Saratoga. I'm telling you, Sonata's a good horse. She can be a factor in one of those races at a big price. Horses that are going well for Barclay Tagg, he's been improving these horses, and I've seen him do it before with horses that didn't look as good. The fact that Sonata finished as close as she did in this race, considering the pace, the dynamics, and the kind of trip she had, is a feather in her cap. She runs into condition non-winners of 1 in Saratoga. She'll win it. She can run in that second stake, and I will be very interested in betting her. Obviously, it depends on who's in it and what happens between now and then. But Sonata's a horse to keep your eye on. She's going.
And she's out of Owsley, a very nice turf mare back in the day.
Right. They paid $800,000 for her. Owsley was a big winner. She has plenty of pedigree. Anyway, John, thanks for joining me, helping out. We'll see you again on the show, and hopefully you'll contact us with some help, trips, and traps at NYRAinc.com. Thanks a lot for watching.